Good evening to all residents and business owners across the Shire of Gingin. My name is Rick. I am the Chief Astronomer here at the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory, and it's wonderful that you could join us this evening for tonight's virtual town hall meeting. Now, what have I gathered you all around for this town hall meeting? Well, what we're doing tonight is I'm here to explain to you how we're going to make Gingin the Western Australia's first international dark sky reserve. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to tell you all about what is a dark sky reserve, how it works, all the various aspects, and if you have any comments or any questions, just type them into the chat on the side of YouTube, if you're watching YouTube or if you're watching on our Facebook channel. We will address the Facebook questions later on, but for the moment I've just got the YouTube channel in front of me with the chat, so I'm hoping that we can actually answer some of your questions if you have any. If not, we've got a lot to cover, so what we're going to do is kick straight on into the presentation, telling you all about it. Now, a couple of things that before we kick off, if you wanted more information about the International Dark Sky Reserve and our plans to make the Shire of Gingin as such, you can pick up this. This is our brochure that we hand out here at the Gravity Discovery Centre. It is called the Guardians of the Dark, so the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve Initiative, and it pretty much covers what we'll be covering tonight. So if you want some of them, we've got a couple of them up at the local cafe near the Gingin Brook in town, but we will send out some more across to the council chambers, and you can pick up some there, or you can just come down to the Gravity Discovery Centre and have a cup of coffee, and if you wanted to chat about it and I'm around, I'll be happy to talk to you all about it. So without further ado, what we're going to do now is we will click on to our presentation, and we'll get started, and you can learn all about the International Dark Sky Reserve. So our Gingin Dark Sky Reserve. This is creating Western Australia's first international dark sky reserve as recognised by the International Astronomical Union. Oh, no, wrong organisation. The International Dark Sky Association. Big difference right there. That's all right. So, first and foremost, what is a dark sky reserve? Well, an international dark sky reserve is an area possessing exceptional dark starry skies that are specifically protected for its scientific, educational, cultural heritage and nocturnal environment. And that ticks all the boxes right here within the Shire of Gingin. Now, one of the things that we are aiming to protect, of course, is the science. We actually have active science going on here. We have astronomical research collaborations from the University of Western Australia and Osgrav. There's also the Japanese Space Agency, also the Polish Space Agency, Airbus Ariane Group, and the United States Air Force Academy have active assets here on site that are constantly observing and utilising the clear dark skies that Gingin has. So protecting this science is a wise investment because unfortunately down towards Perth and all the surrounding areas, it is not conducive to do any form of optical astronomical research because of the light pollution, but we are far enough away that the skies are still excellent, and it still can be used for such research endeavours. The education, this is what we're here for. This is why the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory was created, is for the education, for the science, technology, engineering and mathematics, for astronomy, astrophysics, the local cultural astronomy as well. So stories and things from the Yued Nyunga culture as well. So the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory is the perfect place to teach and inspire future scientists in the fields of optical and radio astronomy, astrophysics, gravitational wave astronomy, and physics as well. And we've got lots of hands-on activities, plus an amazing observatory you can come and visit as well. The cultural heritage, so protecting the local sky stories and culture. Now, the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory is working together with local Yued and Whadjuk elders to preserve and continue the traditional sky stories that these stories are actually intertwined amongst the dark dust lanes of the Milky Way galaxy and the stars themselves, and form a very, very important part of the history and culture of the Nyungan Nation. Also, the nocturnal environment is very important because we're protecting our precious ecosystem. So the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve seeks to protect the local wildlife, bird, insect, amphibian and coastal marine life that form an integral part of this unique ecosystem. And of course these animals and creatures do rely on the night and day cycle, and it's unfortunate that the light pollution from Perth and around the surrounding Perth area, that a lot of the nocturnal creatures, their behaviour is actually starting to change, and detrimental change as well. But also science tourism. So the Dark Sky Reserve will seek to attract local, national and international visitors, more than what we already have, to WA's premier astronomical observatory. We've got big telescopes, great staff you can interact with. Each of them is a professional, plus fantastic dark skies that we're seeking to protect. We also have on-site research observatories as well that visitors can visit at certain times, and also visitor access to researchers and guided by qualified astronomers and astrophysicists as well. So what a place to experience the cosmos, what a place to learn about the cosmos. And to do that, we need dark skies. Now, what is light pollution? We keep talking about light pollution, and some people may not know it actually exists, but unfortunately it is there and has been there ever since the invention of the light bulb. But light pollution is the presence of unwanted, inappropriate or excessive artificial light at night, or what we call ALAN. Of course, no offense to any ALANs listening tonight, it's nothing to do with you. But just the same, we can get it from such sources as street lights, car yard lights, school security lights, sports and recreational oval lights, architectural lights, the list goes on. And it produces this effect, as you can see on your screen, that horrible dome of light that actually blocks out the night sky. Now, it affects human health, wildlife behaviour, and severely impacts the science of optical astronomy. Now, from large cities like Perth and its suburban surrounds, the sky glow from light pollution is visible for tens to hundreds of kilometres away. You can see it up in the upper reaches of the planned Dark Sky Reserve, but it is limited to a very low, dim bubble on the horizon. But where we are, it is reasonably prominent, but it is generally kept down towards the southern regions of our sky, and we can take steps to mitigate that. From Gingin and the GDC precinct, the sky glow is mostly restricted but not limited to a dome on the southern horizon. Occasionally we get a dome of light popping up to the north of us or to the northeast of us. There is a bit of a story about those two, which I'm happy to tell you a little bit later on, but thankfully we've got a very large tower on site. It's 45 metres high, and it gives us a fantastic view of the surrounds, so we can see where there's new lights that have popped up, and we can then start to approach the owners of said light and talk to them like good neighbours and say, hey, do you realise your light is actually having an impact upon us? Now, what causes light pollution? Now, light pollution can be caused by a whole bunch of other things, like I said earlier, but public enemy 1, 2 and 3, of course, is the humble street light. Now, there's a great deal of them in the Perth metro area, and a lot of them now are staying on all night. And it's quite alarming and dismaying to know that they stay on all night, because in certain areas they stay on all night when there's absolutely no traffic. So it's more of a now case of wasted energy. But the street light is that familiar cobra head design that we can see here on the picture, where it has that glass lens that protrudes out from the base, and that glass lens is designed to disperse the light over a large area, so a large area is actually evenly illuminated. But if we look on the diagram here, we see that a street light produces what's called a useful cone of light, and that's the area to be lit. Now, it also produces unwanted light pollution, such as in the form of direct glare. There's that fellow down there with his megaphone screaming out my eyeballs. It's extremely very bright. The glare from these lights is pretty darn intense, and of course now with the advent of LED technology, it's even worse. There's also light trespass. If you live in a town or down in Perth or wherever, you may inconveniently have a street light right near your bedroom window, and of course that is trespassing onto your property, and you are well within your right to ask for that light to be shielded to stop that light trespass. But one of the worst and most insidious forms of light pollution is the direct scattering of light because of that lens underneath the cobra head design light, scattering light upwards into the night sky, causing sky glow. So back to the previous picture, I'll just double back a little bit, there we are. That previous picture is sky glow caused by poorly designed and overused light at night, artificial light at night. So one way to actually look at that glow on the horizon is millions of dollars of electricity has been wasted every single year to light up the night sky where it is not needed and certainly not wanted. Another way to look at it is millions of tons of fossil fuels are being consumed every single year, contributing to global warming and climate change. This is an environmental disaster going on right above our heads, and yet there is an easy fix to it. In fact, out of all environmental repairs, the repair of light pollution, or to mitigate light pollution, both has both instant financial and environmental benefits the moment you implement them. So I'll just blip forward a little bit. Of course, nowadays we have the new LED lights that they're bringing out. They're a little bit better designed, where they do direct the light down to where it is needed. However, they do present their own set of problems, which I'll be getting into in just a moment. But when we look at this diagram here of the various different street lights, we go from the very bad to the bad to the better to the best. And as we can see, the very bad is those ball type luminaires that scatter light in all directions, up, down, sideways, wherever. The bad ones, just like the Cobra head design, scatter it upwards and outwards. Bit better, where it's restricting it down to and be parallel with the horizon. But best is to actually direct all your light down, where it is needed on the ground. It's not needed up in the sky, it is needed right on the ground to light up things. And with the added bonus that now you've increased your intensity of light on the ground, you can now start using a more energy efficient bulb, or if it's LED technology, you can dim the light, thereby extending the life of the luminaire. This picture here is very, well, I look at it and I shake my head in wonder. For a start, the street is empty, so what are they lighting up the road for? Those lights are the new LED lights, and they're bright as anything. Some people even forget to put their headlights on their vehicle. And of course, you know, you're driving along and you don't have your headlights on, and sometimes people may not be able to see you. But with this amount of light, oh yeah, they'll be able to see you, I'm pretty sure. But the other thing that we see here, apart from no traffic, it's intensely bright, that direct glare into a driver's eyes actually increases driver fatigue. So you may be driving home from a late night at the observatory, and you're driving down the freeway and you're having all this light pouring into your eyes. It causes you to blink, it causes your eyes to become strained, and it does increase driver fatigue, which could lead to potential accidents, and that's a major problem. So, and it's also wasted electricity. Now, we have technology, this is the 21st century, we have technology that with LED lights, we can actually dim them. There's a program starting up in a couple of the shires around of smart lighting technology, where those lights can be dimmed down to 20% of their actual brightness. So, in fact, some lights could be put on sensors. So as you're driving along, the 5 or 10 street lights in front of you go to full power as you drive past. Well, that's going to still cause driver fatigue, but just the same. And as you drive past, after a minute or two, they drop back down to a very low illumination, which preserves the sky, it preserves the natural surrounds as well. Now, is light pollution harmful? Well, yes, it is. Now, what I just described to you about the direct glare into your eyes constitutes a problem, a health hazard, but there's far more sinister repercussions of light pollution. Now, when we look at the different colored lights, I mean, you can see the different colored lights even at home. You may have lights that are down below this color grade at the 2700K. They give a very warm type atmosphere. And all the way up to the extreme, up around 4000K, 5000K, and 7000K, is that cool, very intense white light. Now, that's where the problem is, what's called the color-corrected temperature. So we have 2700K, which is the very warm, almost orange type light, going up next to 3000K, which is slightly brighter, but still warm enough. Then we have the 3500K, 4000K, which is getting to the cooler white light, up to the 5000, 6000, and 7000K, which is that intense, pure white light. And this is where the problem lies. It is that color, the color-corrected temperature. So if we look at the spectra, the color output of all the colors mashed together to give us these colors, we see that the 2700K, with this graph here, we see a tremendous amount of reds and oranges And then down towards the left-hand side of the graph, we see a very small little bump of blue light. And this is where the problem lies. It is the blue light, because as we go up into the higher K range, the higher Kelvin range, like 3000 K, that blue light becomes more pronounced. It starts becoming cooler. And then eventually when we hit the 4000 K light, we have a very, very strong blue response coming from the light. And this is where the problem lies. It is that blue light, because the human body has evolved to, and not just the human body, but animals as well, to respond to that blue light. And this is a bit beyond my my capacity as an astronomer, but you'll get the general idea. When we look at the street lights here, of course, the LED lights, the 4000K LED lights on the Mitchell Freeway, they're very, very bright. You know, you can see pretty well, but it's also extremely bright. But when you look at the high pressure sodium lights further down towards the older sections of the freeway, they start becoming more orange and warmer as well. But the problem, like I said, lies in that peak blue light. And as we can see, those white lights have got a peak blue light, and the orange ones virtually non-existent. Now, it's all to do with your circadian rhythms. You know, when you go to bed, when you wake up, what you do during the day, and you sleep, that kind of stuff. And your body has a master clock, and is located in the let me try and get this right, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a part of your brain. It's in towards the central stem. And a part of that is also the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland is responsible for producing this neurohormone called melatonin. Some of you may have heard of melatonin. Some of you may take supplements to boost your melatonin production, and that's a good thing, because the human body works off visual cues, what you see during the day. So during the day, you go outside, the sun is shining bright, and it has a color-corrected temperature of around between 7,000 to 10,000 K. So there's a very strong blue response of light. Now, as the sun sets and that peak blue light diminishes, then that sends another signal through your eyes, through the retinohypothalamic tract, which is essentially like a tube that goes to your pineal gland or to your SCN, and it tells you to start producing melatonin, because that peak blue light is diminished. So your pineal gland starts to produce melatonin. And as it produces melatonin, you start feeling sleepy, and you do the sensible thing and you go to bed. So this is a more simplistic diagram. It shows us during the day we get that response, that peak blue light response. It keeps us awake, fires off serotonin, keeps us awake. It's great. At nighttime, when that blue light disappears, melatonin starts to produce, you go to bed and you have a good night's sleep. It is unfortunate now that in today's society, especially with these street lights and other forms of outdoor lighting that are in the peak blue light, they're actually firing off all this light, peak blue light, to tell various creatures, humans included, to not produce melatonin. And therefore you're not getting the benefits of melatonin, which, by the way, is a very, very strong antioxidant. And it's, you know, a good anti-cancer type thing to have, which is why I never underestimate the power of a good night's sleep, my doctor once told me. But we're also exposing ourselves to other forms of blue light, especially from mobile phones. And if you do happen to look at your mobile phone just before going to bed, I urge you to stop, because it has been found through research that the disruption of your sleep schedule might leave you distracted and impair your memory the next day. A poor night's sleep caused by smartphone light can make it harder to learn. This is very important for kids. I mean, kids are technologically switched on, and they're forever with their phones or devices in their hand. So it's important that you actually get them off their devices at least an hour before going to bed. Over the long term, not getting enough sleep can lead to a neurotoxin buildup that makes it even harder for you to get to sleep. So it's this, you know, compounding problem, and that's not good. People whose melatonin levels are suppressed and those body clocks are thrown off by light exposure are more prone to depression. We also have researchers are investigating whether or not blue light could lead to cataracts. And by disrupting melatonin and sleep, smartphone light can also mess with hormones that control hunger, potentially increase obesity risk. And there's also some evidence that blue light could damage our vision by harming the retina over time, although more research is needed. And of course, the scariest one of the lot, there is a connection between light exposure at night and the disturbed sleep that comes with it, and an increased risk of breast and prostate cancers. So, you know, I know it's nothing to do with light pollution, but this just gives you the idea that the peak blue light does have major health repercussions. And to not just flood your nighttime bedroom light with it, but the greater environment is actually harming our local flora and fauna. Now, how it causes breast cancer. Through recent studies, there was a large study done in Spain by comparing shift workers who had a very, very low melatonin count over a prolonged period of time. White and fluorescent light contains high bioactive blue content. The melanopsin receptors in the lower half of the eye detect that blue light. It disrupts your circadian rhythm. Blue light suppresses melatonin released from the pineal gland. Cancer tumors have been seen to grow faster when melatonin is suppressed, and this increases certain types of cancer, most notably breast and prostate. So it is very, very real. Now, this next extract came from a conference that I went to back in 2018, and presenting there was a neurosurgeon from the American Medical Association. So the American Medical Association supports the proper conversion to community-based LED lights. It's much better than the incandescent bulbs we have because they're more energy efficient. We burn less fossil fuels, which is a good thing. But the AMA also encourages the use of LED sources with a lower melanopic content, basically a warmer light. Not the 4,000K lights, but 3,000K is okay, but lower. 2,700K is much, much better. All LED street lights should be properly shielded, so to minimize the amount of glare and trespass into homes and other potential detrimental human and environmental effects. Also to be given the LED lights to be dimmed as well, and not blazing at full power every single night, night after night, every year after year, lighting up empty streets. And also apply the appropriate color corrected temperature. I might have mentioned that before, but I find it important to mention again. Now, how can you guys help? How can the Shire of Gingin, how can the community of Gingin help support the Dark Sky Initiative? Well, for a start, only use outdoor lighting when necessary. Some of you may have sheds, very large sheds, you know, driveways, whatever, and to actually have your light blazing away over an empty field or onto your driveway every single night, well, for a start, it's costing you electricity, isn't it? So, you know, but also it's spreading light out into the dark environment of the Shire of Gingin, and we really don't want that. So in order to, not just to save the dark skies here at Gingin, it'll save you money too. So maybe turn your light off, or if you're worried that people may trespass onto your property at nighttime, you know what, you know, put a sensor on it. So ask yourself, does my external shed light need to be on all night? And can I use a sensor light instead? In fact, sensor lights have been proven to be much, much more efficient at scaring away trespassers and intruders, because when the light turns on, they don't know if it's being turned on by a machine or by a human coming out to intercept them. So the first thing they do when they get hit by a bright light is they leg it into the shadows and hopefully never come back. Are my existing lights being used efficiently? Are they pointing to the ground, or are they pointing just straight out? You have to check them. If you could do that, it'd be fantastic. Support the shielding and modifications of existing streetlights across the Shire of Gingin. So one of the main aims of the International Dark Sky Reserve program is to get all the streetlights within the Dark Sky Reserve is to actually make them comply with the best standards addressed by the International Dark Sky Association. Now, I've been in discussions with the Shire of Gingin, and we're looking at doing a demonstration along the main street of Gingin town and actually modifying some of the street lights, taking a number of street lights and removing that glass bowl, that lens, and just putting a flat piece of plastic or glass across the light bulb. So in effect, the actual hood acts like a light shield. So the conversion is minimalistic in cost. There's no extra bits to add to it, just apart from removing that bulb and putting in a flat thing. In fact, many, many years ago, there was a wheatbelt town, which will remain nameless, that actually replaced all of their street lights at the behest of a Japanese amateur astronomer who had his observatory set up in that particular area, and they replaced all the lenses that hung down because he wanted to keep the skies dark for his astrophotography pursuits. He was a world-famous astrophotographer, by the way, as well. But he came to Western Australia because of its fantastic dark skies. Now, question the need for extra street lighting. Do we really need it? I mean, you know, occasionally, you know, there might be a need for it, but why not use the smart approach? And if you do happen to use an LED light, can we put it on a sensor? Can we utilize 21st century technology? And rather than having blasting away all night when it's not in use, just reduce the light down so you can see it from a distance, but it's not glaringly bright. And then as you approach, it brightens up and you go past and off it goes. But most of the times, we really don't need street lights. In fact, they can be more of a problem. So you just have to ask yourself the question. And the whole idea of security has been proven false. There was a time in one of the editions of the Engineers Australia magazine many, many years ago. There was a story about a high school in the United States that was plagued by antisocial behaviour, arson, breaking and enter, drug deals, all kinds of things going on site because the school was lit up like daylight. So one year they decided to turn all the lights off around the school precinct, and all those unfavourable aspects diminished away. Why? Because if somebody's there to do ill intent and they start using a torch, they instantly draw attention upon themselves. So, you know, lighting up things may not be the appropriate way, but certainly where you have a pedestrian or a vehicle conflict, like a crosswalk, absolutely, you do need to have lights on there as well. And that's what the Australian Standard says. In fact, that's what the Australian Standard is pretty much all about, is having appropriate street lights only to be used during a pedestrian and traffic conflict. Take pride in making the Shire of Gingin the dark sky capital of WA by just turning your outside lights off. You know, show your support. Just turn the lights off. Save some electricity costs as well. Save some money for that. But the best way you can actually do it is by turning off your lights and only using when they're needed, and that's it. And also communicate. Talk about the dark skies to any visitors or any tourists that happen to be in town. You know, if they say, oh, we've heard about this, or why are the street lights like that? You just say, well, we're a part of an international dark sky reserve. We're the first one in Western Australia. So that'll be a heck of a talking point for not just for Gingin town itself, but all across the entire Shire, from Lancelin and all across Cervantes, Gilderton, everywhere else. So what a fantastic way to say, you know, we are actively protecting one of our greatest assets here in the Shire. Now, getting back to the lights on sheds, we had this kind of problem with the Boonanaring mineral sand mine site. When they first started their operations, they were very, very, very bright, but we decided we at the Gravity Discovery Centre approached them, their on-site management, as friendly neighbours, and we asked them that your lights are actually presenting a major problem to what we do. And they took it on board, which was absolutely fantastic. And we made some requests about their lights, especially around their maintenance sheds, which were extremely bright. And they were happy to comply to do their part for the community, which was absolutely marvellous. So this light shows what used to be on their sheds, but with some simple modifications of shielding and even directing the light down, we've now managed to use the light more efficiently, and just with a simple technique of shielding the lights. That's it. It's really not that hard. Now, of course, the street lights around Gingin that we want to demonstrate, of course, it's a simple matter of actually removing that glass dome and replacing it with a flat screen, so we direct all the light down to the ground where it is needed. And that is a very sensible and practical way of just making the skies darker. Now, this picture here was taken from our tower, 45 metres high above the surrounding area. And of course, this was taken in November 2017. And of course, we can see the light pollution from Perth to the south and Yanship over down to the southwest. We see Bullsbrook and Mouchet. But we also, out to the east, we see Gingin town itself. It's a very small blip of light, but any improvement is better than no improvement. But the Gravity Discovery Centre and the Australian what's it called? It's the Australian AGO, the Australian International Gravitational Observatory. That's it. You notice that we're actually lit up really, really bright. Now you're probably thinking, well, where do you get off telling us to turn our lights off, and yet you're blazing away like Times Square on New Year's Eve? Well, good point. Well, we actually took that on board, and we thought we'd do the proper thing and lead by example. And what we've done, in fact, not too long after that, is we've actually took that on board and we decided to lead by example. And you know, we see this picture here now, that was February 2019. We've made further improvements, but just that, to reduce it down to that light output, all we did was 2 simple fixes. 1, we turned off the light to the ice cream fridge, and 2, we covered up our drinks fridge because that had no switch off for the lights. And just with those 2 very simple fixes, we reduced our lighting output down to very, very, very low levels. In fact, it is now further improved because we've removed a couple of TV screens from our main discovery gallery. In fact, a lot of them now we just plainly turn off at the end of the day. And same too with the AGO site down the back. When people stay there, they are mindful to turn their lights off, and if they move around at nighttime outside, they are on sensor lights, so they only stay on for about 5 minutes and then they automatically turn off again. So the benefits of keeping the sky dark. Well, for the community, well, the darker the environment, the better sleep and the better health you're going to have. Simple as that. Darker environment, again, better for livestock, for sheep, cows, goats, whatever you're growing, or whatever you're farming. Having an animal under stress certainly affects its health and affects its meat quality or whatever. I'm not really sure about that, but certainly it would pose an impact on the product that you're delivering at the end of the night. And also, if you're worried about people running off with your sheep, they're going to be harder to find in the dark than if they're lit up and saying, free sheep here. So really, keep them in the dark and it'll be a lot better for everyone. A darker environment is protection and health for local wildlife, bird, insect, amphibian and coastal marine life, including the local plant life as well. Some of the plant life do rely on the night and day cycles to survive. So keeping it with that day-night cycle and keeping it dark is a benefit for just the entire ecosystem that's unique to this area. The Dark Sky Reserve official designation will seek to attract more local, interstate and international visitors and space and astronomical research collaborations. Like I said before, we have the Japanese Space Agency, the Polish Space Agency, the United States Air Force Academy, Airbus Ariane Group, and the list could grow on. The Shire of Gingin could be the space hub of Western Australia. Now, from coast to cosmos, pretty good catch cry, we'll aim to boost numbers and tourist dollars flowing into the area, into the local economy, for local tourism and accommodation providers. Now, also, to create the astronomy capital of Western Australia, well, science tourism, most notably tourism and astronomy, is a booming division in WA because we've got great dark skies. But having it here at the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory and having the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve is only an hour's drive north of Perth. You drive up here and you've also got the option to stay as well. Just up the road from us, of course, is Willowbrook Caravan Park and also another of other B&Bs. Hello to Rona out there if you're watching, greetings. There's a number of fantastic Airbnbs and other forms of accommodation that people can just go up to and spend the night there and experience night under the dark skies. So like I said, we're an hour's drive north of Perth from the CBD, easy to travel to dark skies, to a world-class observatory and being guided through the cosmos by expert astronomers and astrophysicists. So currently the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory attracts approximately 30,000 visitors to the region every single year. We would love to see that jump up, double if not treble. That'll be really fantastic. It'll encourage visitors to explore the surrounding town sites along the coast and of course in towards the middle areas within the Gingin Dark Sky region, and even closer to local accommodation and local tourist attractions as well. And it's a great reason to visit and to stay a while. Normally people on their way up north, they just drive straight through, and it's like, why not catch them and say, hey, come and check this out. Now, one of the things that we're doing, that we've now done for the last 2 years, is something called the annual Gingin Dark Sky Star Party, where we want to showcase the beautiful dark skies here at the Shire of Gingin. And it's organised via so the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory, along with the Shire of Gingin. We organise this little event, and it's held at the Near Gabby campgrounds. It's a perfect place. It's wonderful and dark. It's easy to access. And participants of the Star Party are encouraged to bring their own telescopes, binoculars, or even just their eyes to enjoy the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve. Now, participants of the Star Party are encouraged to stay the weekend, so make it a mini getaway. And it's also closer and darker than Margaret River, so, and also cheaper to get to too. The price of fuel these days, wow. But just the same, it is like a mini getaway, only an hour's drive north of Perth. So you can leave work, grab your stuff, come up here and enjoy a fantastic getaway. It is designed to attract visitors, both local and interstate, to visit the Shire of Gingin and the Dark Sky Reserve, and also capture northbound road travellers to drop in and stay at local accommodation. So they see something going on, or the observatory is open, they can come in and make use of all the fine accommodation in the area. And of course, encourage Star Party attendees to explore and spend tourist dollars within the Shire of Gingin. So this could be a great opportunity if you did want to open up a tourist venture. Combine that with the what we do here, and we certainly could, help and work together. Collaboration is the key. Now, activities at the Near Gabby campgrounds. So it's conducted over 2 nights, usually a Friday and Saturday night, and camping is optional. Activities include observing through large telescopes, which we take our telescopes up from the observatory. So if you didn't bring a telescope, that's okay. We've brought some for you to look through as well, and we'd gladly show you the wonders of the cosmos. So you can bring your own telescope and binoculars in your eyes. They're very handy. Bring your own cameras or astrophotography gear to capture the amazing skies that we have out here. We also have local Aboriginal stories and star lore. So we have, last time we had Dr. Noel Nannup, who's a Whadjuk Noongar elder, and he was working together with the Ued Noongar people up in Mora, and he comes and tells stories from the perspective of the Noongar people, the traditional caretakers of the southwest of Western Australia, and shows how the sky looks through far more ancient eyes than the Greco-Roman constellations we're all familiar with. We also do daytime events at the Gravity Precinct, so people can come along and listen to talks by astrophysicists and researchers that use the big Zadko 1 metre class telescope, which is the biggest telescope for research in Western Australia, and also take the opportunity to look at our nearest star, to do some solar observing, which we do here at the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory. But also encourage people to go to town of Gingin or up north to Gilderton or whatever and have lunch by the sea or do whatever. Just spend your time around the area. So again, why keeping it dark? So for the protection of the local Aboriginal culture. So Uet and Whadjuk Noongar astronomical star lore and sky stories, like I said, they're an integral part. And the use of the dark dust lanes of the Milky Way galaxy, and of course the stars, that's where they keep their records, that's where they keep their stories, and it's an integral part of their culture. And it's also drawing upon over 60,000 years of astronomical knowledge, culture and history of the local environment and of the sky. The research side of it, well, it's home to the Zadko telescope, the 1 metre research telescope, also the Falcon telescope used by the US Air Force Academy, and again, Japanese Space Agency, the Polish Space Agency, and the Airbus Ariane group. And we're also fulfilling a very unique observational longitude. You see, there's observatories out on the east coast of Australia, there's observatories in southern Africa, but there's really nothing in between, and the only research observatory is us. So this is where a bulk of the astronomical research gets done, right here. Now, it was also proximity to a major capital city, We're only an hour's drive north, but we're still close enough that researchers can go back to airports and wherever, or even stay up here. And of course, yes, the GDC Observatory and also ZADCO have done a number of collaborations with NASA as well. Astronomy education, teaching future scientists and inspiring the future scientists and astronomers and astrophysicists of tomorrow. And of course, looking after the environment and the wildlife as well. And also, it'll provide a dark sky sanctuary for people who are staying overnight. Give them a chance to reset their circadian rhythm away from the lights of Perth. Get them to be familiar with the night sky. Get their internal clock reset. So this is the area we're protecting. It encompasses the entire Shire of Gingin, plus small parts of the city of Wanneroo and the Shire of Chittering. That actually acts as a buffer zone for us. But this encompasses over 3,500 square kilometres. And of course, that red star in the centre and that green blob, of course, is the core region, which is the gravity precinct at the centre. But what we want to do is, in the next couple of years, or next year or two, is to install remote sensing stations, so we can then start to keep a track of the dark sky quality across the entire Dark Sky Reserve. Now that picture in the top right-hand corner is of course the sky quality meter that we have here at the observatory. That has been logging data now for the last 3 years. And we've been getting some very, very, very good results. And we want to keep it that way. In fact, not just keep it that way, we want to improve upon them. And the way we can do that is through education and through demonstration. So we show people dark skies, we educate them about them, we educate them about the dangers of light pollution, just like what we're doing now. So the more you know, the better you're prepared. And then of course the hotspots that we can see here, of course Yanchep is very, very bright. We see the Boonanarring mineral sand mine glowing quite brightly, but we do have smaller pockets here and there, but generally it is quite dark. Some of those green splotches are actually transient, meaning that they are not there anymore, which is a good thing. They might be roadworks, they might be lights for a bridge under repair. It's happened in the past. But generally, the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve is dark. It is very dark. So the Gravity Discovery Centre, so myself and our CEO worked very, very closely with the State Government of Western Australia, the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, and we consulted and assisted greatly on the production or the publication of the position statement of dark skies and astrotourism. There was many a presentation I had to do for the WA Planning Committee. As we can see, there's a picture of all those fine people there. They came up to the observatory on a particular evening just before they made their final decision whether to approve this or not. And the chairperson who represented them all basically said to me, "I can see what you're trying to protect now." So this here outlines, this was published in the 22nd, January 2022. And this outlines all the best practices to keep the skies dark around astronomical observatories such as us, but also any ventures in astrotourism and such. Basically protecting our night skies at a state government level, which is a huge step forward. And the Gravity Discovery Centre is very, very proud to be a part of this publication that we helped assist in putting out there to protect our dark skies. Now, the Guardians of the Dark, as we like to say, is made up by these groups. Of course, the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, who helped to create and to publish the position statement. Of course, the Shire of Gingin, working together with the folks from the Shire of Gingin. So Aaron Cook, big shout out to you. Thank you very much to all the councillors there who listened to my repeated presentations about dark skies, etc. But also to Kylie Bacon from the Planning Department. She's been an absolute dynamo. So thank you for all your assistance, and working with you guys has been an absolute pleasure. It really has. And continue to look forward to working with you as well to keep these wonderful skies dark. We've also been working with the City of Wanneroo, also the Main Roads Department, Western Power, and just recently the Shire of Chittering as well, because part of their part of the Dark Sky Reserve falls within their jurisdiction too. But of course now the most important addition that we would like to make of course, is the residents and businesses of the Gingin community. This is why we need your help. We need you to embrace the ideas of keeping the skies dark, not just for us, but for your health, for your children's health, for your farming endeavors, for whatever. It's best to keep the skies dark, because once it gets flooded by light pollution, it is very, very, very difficult to get rid of. I mean, down in Perth, it's unfortunate that because I do live down in Perth, when I drive home from coming up here and looking at the majesty of the Milky Way spanning across the sky, to driving back down to Perth and can only see a few bright stars, it is heartbreaking. It really is. Because I remember a time where they used to turn the streetlights off at 1 o'clock in the morning. So back when I was a kid, I could walk into my own backyard and look up and see the Milky Way. But nowadays it is lost. And let's not try and lose it here, because it is a very, very precious resource that you have here. And like I said, once it's gone, it is gone. Now, we've already made a submission to the International Dark Sky Association, and we are hoping to get this seal of approval. Now, we made our submission nearly 2 years ago now. We're just ticking a few extra boxes and crossing a few T's and dotting a few I's, but currently our application is pending, which is very, very exciting. Now, this is one of the things that we are doing here, is to let all the people of the community of the Shire of Gingin to know about this project, to get on board with it, and to really help us out. Because if we have a groundswell of community support, it'll go a long way to making this thing a success. Now, I usually close off when I do talk about the Dark Sky Reserve is if we are successful in our endeavours to create Gingin as the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve, we will be the first internationally recognised dark sky reserve in Western Australia and the 5th dark sky place in Australia. So, dare I say, the future for the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory is looking very, very dark, but that is a very good thing to have. But in conclusion, we'd like people to start saying the stars are not brighter in Gingin, the sky is darker in Gingin, because we want to protect that darkness. So folks, that's it for the presentation. I can't see any questions, but that's okay. If you do have any questions in the upcoming nights, we're going to be broadcasting this same thing again on Wednesday night, and of course also on Thursday night as well, because tonight you may have footy training, or something's going on down at the pub or whatever, or you've just had a hard day at work. Not a problem, that's perfectly fine. So if you'd like to tune in coming up on Wednesday, same time at 7 o'clock, I'll be repeating myself, well, mostly. But, and if you have any questions, or even after you watch the repeat of this, that's perfectly fine. Please feel free to get in contact with the Gravity Discovery Centre. You can call us on 9575 7577, or you can just email us at bookings@gravitycentre.com.au. Or even if you want to just drop in and have a cuppa, we'd love to talk to you about that dark skies and address any concerns you have. But this is a positive thing that will happen to the Shire of Gingin to actually make WA's first international dark sky reserve. So folks, without further ado, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Once again, I will see you again on Wednesday night and Thursday night for the same thing. So until then, safe travels, and we'll see you then. Until then, safe travels, and we'll see you then.